Welcome to my brand new tutorial series about how to play Ultima Online. This video series is going to start for people that don't know how to play, have never played, don't maybe even know what Ultima Online is before you found this video. Hopefully somebody sent it to you and you're like, hey, how do I do basic things? This is going to start before you get to that point. We're going to walk through character creation. We're going to walk through why you should choose certain things and why I suggest you choose certain things. We're going to teach you how to walk around. We're going to teach you how to interact with the interface, all that kind of stuff. After this video, there will be specific videos to cover certain parts of the interface and certain parts of the options menu and certain things like that. We're going to touch on several things in this video just to give you kind of a feel for the interface, a feel for the game, feel for how to do a couple of things that new players might not normally know how to do. And we're going to take it from there. I might repeat myself in these videos just because I like to hammer in things away that I think are important. So you'll have to forgive me if we get to a point where I'm repeating myself. I just think it's important, that's why. This series is going to specifically cover the Outlands Ultima Online server. It is not going to cover retail. You might find some overlap within retail, but if you do, it's purely coincidental. I am sorry, but I haven't played retail since like 2001, so I don't know what is going on over there. I started playing on here 3 months ago, and I'm passionate about it enough to teach y'all how to play. Hopefully you learn a thing or two. Alright, let's get into character creation. First thing you'll need to do is create your Outlands ID. You'll do that here. If you need to change your password, click Forgot Password in the bottom left-hand corner. That will get that covered. We're going to go ahead and log in, though, because I already have an account. You can have up to 3 accounts with 5 characters each. You can upgrade it to 6 characters each with 1,000,000 gold per account. You're not going to need that anytime in the foreseeable future, though. I just wanted to let you know. There is the test server and the UO Outland server. The test server is to test stuff, mostly for staff. Players can go test stuff too, like, well, can you fit a bigger house where your house is? But we're going to focus on the UO Outland server. We're not interested in the test server right now. So go ahead and click on UO Outlands, and you're going to get to your character screen, which you're not going to have any characters because you haven't made one yet. Okay, so now we are going to go through the character creation process, which is fairly simple but also kind of complicated if you're new to it. You're going to go and make an account. We're going to use the name Steve. The name Steve is absolutely 100% going to be taken. That's fine. I want to show you what happens when you enter a name that is already taken. Make sure you have at least one backup name. This server is 6 years old as of the posting of this video, so there's a good chance you might have to enter in a couple character names. You can change your hairstyle, you can change your facial hairstyle, you can change your skin color, your clothes color, you can be male, female. This server does not have gargoyles, or I think orcs is something retail has, although you can get a mask that changes the way your character sounds. But that's beyond the scope of this video. The point is, you can only be human on this server as far as your paper doll is concerned. Once you get everything customized, your hair color, your skin color, all that stuff, which you can change later, it does cost gold. It's not free, but it's not permanent either, so that's a little nugget of comfort you've got there, just in case later you're like, oh man, I wish I had short hair or long hair. You know, you can change it later. It's not free, but you can change it later at the cost of gold. Alright, we are going to get into skill selection now. I strongly recommend you go to the left, crank that puppy up to maximum strength. This is your hit points. We're going to make a melee character simply because they are the easiest to get started. They are the easiest to fund. They are the easiest to play. They're just, if you can make a mage if you want to, but you're going to have a bad time because reagents aren't free. No, they're not terribly expensive, but they're not free. You do use more than just mana on here. It's not like games like WoW where you just use mana and nothing else. You have to use physical items for each spell cast. We're going to select mace fighting because mace fighting is really popular right now. We're going to select parry because parry is going to help keep you alive as a new player. And we're going to choose healing so we get some extra bandages. You can do really what you want here. I just recommend these because these are going to give you the best early game experience versus anything else. An option to switch out for healing would be to pick Chivalry because it will give you your Chivalry spellbook. You don't have to. You can if you want to. I think they're 5,000 gold, which is a lot to start out, but later it won't really matter. If you do decide you want the Shiv book, you can always make another character, select Chivalry, and just trade it off to this one, and then delete them in 7 days. It's not that big of a deal starting off to have a couple characters that you maybe make to pull resources for. As you can see here, I took too long. I got kicked out of the character screen. This is going to happen to you probably a lot as a new player as you're mulling over what your options are. It's your skill selection. I know it feels like a big deal at the beginning, but it's really not, I promise. It's super easy to swap around skills. For 500 gold, you can push any skill up to level 50. It sounds like a lot, but I promise it's not. Even for a new player, you're going to be able to get 500 gold within your first session, if not two, depending how long it is. Alright, now that we are in the game. Alright, so we made our character. This is about what everybody's going to see when you start. Your window's going to be centered. You're going to have, this is called a paper doll. You can organize it however you want. For now, we are going to stay on Shelter Island. You get to stay on Shelter Island for 8 played hours. So don't go AFK a lot, because you want to keep your young status as long as you can, because it allows you to talk to the vendors on this island. And this island is a safe zone, meaning that you can't be killed here by other players, and you can't be stolen from by other players, which is a big factor in the game, because if you don't know, Ultima is a full drop game, meaning that once you're no longer a newbie, our items have newbie status. See that? So that means these items will not drop. After 8 hours of play time, or if you leave the island, these will go away and they won't be newbie anymore, and then if you die, you can lose them. Steve was taken, because of course, it's a very generic name. So you have to pick a name before you can move, right? So we're going to name it Richard YouTube Tutorial. That's too long, right? 16 characters. So we're just going to name him Grishard YouTube. It's not. Okay. So we're in here. I encourage you to read through this. We want to stay on Newbie Island and retain our newbie status, because this will let us talk to vendors. You can always come back. All kinds of things that are going to be helpful to you. Specifically help. It's going to bring up this menu, which is pretty overwhelming, I understand. We don't care right now, we don't care anything about anything under this line. We care about the website. We care about the wiki especially. I strongly recommend, as a new player, every time you log in, just open the wiki. You will be living in this wiki. You're going to get answers faster than in Discord. Just trust me, the wiki, this is a wiki game. If you don't like looking at the wiki for things, you're not going to enjoy this game. Use the wiki, that's why it's there. The forums, they'll post patch notes and things like that on the forums. I don't personally spend any time on the forums. I made an account, actually just recently. I've been playing on the server for just over 3 months. You can check out the forums if you want to. I'm not a forum person. I am a Discord person. Strongly recommend you join the Discord. And in-game help, this will be of help if you get yourself stuck specifically. So, if you go through a gate, which we'll explain what gates are here in a little bit. I don't believe there's any on screen right now. Yeah, there's no gates on screen. But if you find yourself lost, 12 hours, you can character is stuck. This doesn't require staff, this doesn't require anything. You just click character is stuck, teleport to town, and it will get you out of wherever you are. But you will not be able to move for 60 seconds. So make sure that wherever you are safe. It'll teleport you to a random spot in town. We're not going to go over the rest of the in-game help menu, the other items in the Outlands help menu to the left, though. We are going to go over at a later point in the video. Early on as a new player, though, the section you're going to care about the most is player stats to show your gear and what its repair level's at. So we're going to cover this first and everything else in a little bit. You can also push enter, type bracket stats, and it will bring this up. You can also turn it into a macro, so all you have to do is double click it. Which comes to our first macro. So on the options screen, there are lots of things. We'll get to macros in a second. I strongly recommend you come down here on your main option screen, tick open corpses to ignore blue corpses. What this is going to do is any corpse you can loot within 2 tiles will pop up. It will ignore blue corpses, which would flag you as a criminal or a gray, and it will allow other players to kill you without any repercussion. There are a plethora of options to go down through here. We're not going to go over all these right now. I will have a specific video as to what all this stuff does, and we're just trying to get you off and running right. Sound, personally I recommend you turn all your sound options up. Notice how we don't hear music anymore. Now the music's back. Well, somebody playing music is back. Now the music's back. I love the music. Not everybody does. Personal preference. Video. Personally, I untick this because otherwise when you're looking at the wiki and scrolling through it and you come back, your game will be kind of jittery. If your computer is not great, keep that ticked, and then it'll run less frames when it's in the background. Game window, which is this thing in the background. You do not have to resize it here. We're going to move this, which we'll talk about later. You can click the edge of the game window. Personally, anybody that's been in my streams knows I like to have it here, lined up across the top left, and then in the corner down here, you can resize it. Okay? You don't have to do that here. Zoom, you also don't have to do zoom here. If you hold control, mouse wheel down, you can zoom out, mouse wheel up, you can zoom in. I like to keep mine, somewhere in this range. I don't like to play from a helicopter, but I also like to see what's going on around me. Lights, I strongly recommend you lower this to around 15. See how moody it got? As opposed to being bright. Not everybody likes this. I do. Death, that's just personal preference. It affects how when you die, what it looks like. Shadows, we're not worried about any of that. Macros. This is the entry level to using macros with Ultima. What that means is there's a thing that popped up called Razor, which is that little window. It's gonna be on the general tab and it's gonna have different profiles and all that stuff. Okay, we're not gonna worry about Razor right now. Razor's a great tool. We're gonna focus on in-game stuff for now because it's easier and it's more accessible. Macros in-game have lots of different things you can do. You can open the wiki, see how this is already down here for you, so you can click on that. It's a command. See how it's bracket wiki, Outlands help page. See how it's down here, Outlands help page, which opens this that we saw up at the top. If you don't like these little tabs, you can hold Alt and move them around, or you can right click on them when holding Alt to get rid of them. Also, if you double click on any of these, it will do whatever you have it set up to do. So like double click on bank, it'll say bank, double click on guards, it'll say guards, or you can push the hotkey up in the corner. Now, we're gonna make our first macro, which is one that I strongly recommend everybody has. We're gonna click new macro, we're gonna name it Circle of Tea. There's already one for it, but we're gonna make one just to walk through the process. We're going to click up here. I use F4 for my circle of transparency because my home keys that my fingers rest on are 4, 5, and 6. You might not like that. That's great. I'm going to use F4. We're going to check it to save it. That's now our hotkey. We're going to scroll through here. There's all kinds of stuff. Say will make you say. Emote will make you do an emote, which will put stars around it and let a player know that you're emoting and not speaking. Whisper has a shorter range than say. Yell has a bigger range. Toggle walk, toggle war, toggle peace. Like there's tons of things you can set up here. We're just worried about circle of transparency. We're going to hit apply. We're going to drag it out. See how it has F4 in the corner? Drag it out. Pouch will open an explosion pouch, which we don't have. Again, that's a later thing. So we're going to walk behind this building. Where'd we go? Well, our circle of transparency that we just made, we're going to double click it, and now we can see. Shows you behind the building. Now, how did I move? You have two options to move. You can right click, which is what I like to do. You can use your arrow keys, which is how a lot of people play, apparently. I didn't know that until recently. Or you can remap them to something else. I prefer my mouse button, okay? We're also going to make a new macro for bandaging ourselves. So we're going to click new. We're going to name it bandage. We're going to click over on the tab and we're going to scroll down until we find bandage self. We're going to drag that out. Oh, we forgot to set a hotkey. For now, we're going to set it to 7 because that's my heal key. Now we have a hotkey. Feel free to read through all this other stuff. They'll be covered in detail later. We're done there for now. Alright, so we've established this is our paper doll. You can drag items off to take them off. You can either drag them on to equip them, or you can double click them. The big book in your inventory is an atlas. You can click through it. You can see maps, see how close you are to stuff, see where stuff is. It's a really, really good tool. There's also a map that I will put in the description as a link where you can open it on a web browser and see it all the time without having to thumb through the book and try to figure out how to get from point A to point B in game. Let's open our bags. Double click on your bags. Personally, I like to get everything in my main bag. And see how I drag? This lets you adjust the number. Or let's say I know for sure that I want 50. You can type in there. Or if you just want to drag the whole stack, hold shift and then it doesn't pop up at all. Now, we're going to hang on to that to organize in our bank. You're going to notice you have some stones. Some might be different colors. You can click on them to see what they do. If you started a mage, against my suggestions, you're going to have what's called a spell stone, which will let you cast a certain number of spells for free. I don't recommend starting as a mage, but if you did, that's what your spell stone is. Each circle uses a charge, so if you cast a circle 1, it uses 1 charge, circle 2, 2 charges, etc. This is our buff bar. There's a bard in the area that has buffed us. You can click it to rotate it. Recently, I've grown fond of doing it like this because it will grow that direction. You can do it like that, you can do it like that, maybe put it over there. It's really up to you. I prefer mine like that. We also have our map over here, which you can make really big, make really small. It's really up to you. See my name in the middle? It shows nearby player dungeon, it shows healers, it shows banks. You can mouse wheel in and out to zoom in and out on it. You can right click on it. Customize it to your heart's content. We're not going to go over every one of these. They're pretty self-explanatory. They say what they are. For now, we're going to shrink it back down. We're going to grab it and we're going to put it over there. This is very important. I keep this open all the time. Now, if you accidentally right-click this window, oh no, it's gone. Control-Shift will bring it back. If you uncheck Keep Open, you have to hold Control and Shift to keep it open. Now, why is this window important? The reason it's important is because it will show you things in the area. So, see that I walk up here and I see these people, but, like, who are they? I don't know. If I have mobiles on, it'll show their names. If I have mobiles and corpses, it would also show any corpses on the ground, but there aren't any. PvP only shows the player names. See how the vendor names disappeared? PVM doesn't show any because there's no monsters nearby. Items will show any items on the ground. There's a barrel. All will show everything. You can customize this menu if you click on Options. Go down to Nameplates. Say I want to add a new entry. We're going to call it My Entry. You can name it whatever you want. It adds it over to here. See, it's My Entry, and it doesn't do anything because we haven't set it to do anything yet. You can have it show humanoid corpses, your own corpse, monster corpses, containers, so it'll show that barrel. Gold stackable, like this is very customizable. Static, which will show signs, decorations and stuff. Menu is going to be your best friend forever. You will never stop using this. You might get to a point to where you're comfortable not keeping it open. I keep it open all the time. Really, personal preference. So we're going to click OK. We're going to move this down to here. We're going to move this over to here. And we're going to look at this now. This will tell you certain items you have in your bag. As we are not a mage, we are going to right click on these and we're going to remove the reagents because we simply do not care as we are a caster, or not a caster. Options. Counters. This is what's called your counter. You can disable it, which will make it go away. You can enable it, which will bring it back. Try to figure out about how big you want this, because as you add, like say we want to add a column, it's going to move items around, right? So, as we're not going to have a lot of stuff for a while, we're just going to flip it back to the default. Oh, whoops. Excuse me. Oh, the default is small. Okay. So we're going to do 2 rows, and we're going to do 8 columns. That'll be plenty for us for a while. So everything's gone, right? This is what's called Adventurer's Rope. Don't worry about that yet. You could leave it there, though, because it will be important. Let's go ahead and take our food, our bandages, our cure potions, which are for poison. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. That's all we have to keep track of right now. Now that we have that, we're going to look at the food. Okay, we've got food. What does that do? Well, we're going to click on status over here. There's 2 status windows. You can click on that, or you can drag it off your character. It really just depends. It's going to be in the same order as this over here. I don't like this one. I like to see the numbers. Everybody has their own preference. While we're looking at this, this is your strength, your dexterity, and your intellect. As we are a melee, we are going to go ahead and lock that for now, because we don't really care about intellect because we don't use spells. The predominant thing for intellect is mana. I don't know that it has any other function on here. On retail, it affects different things, I think, but on here, I'm pretty sure it just affects mana. Strength, we want that up, and dexterity, we want that up. Strength is our hit points. Dexterity is going to be our swing speed. So the more dexterity you have, the faster you swing. You can have 225 points, which is why we locked this. We could always just, like, let it work itself up to 25 and lock it. But let's just go ahead and lock it for now and leave these 2 up. When these 2 get to 100, we'll let that go up just so we have all 225 points. Up here's your food timer. We're going to eat a food. We now have 60 minutes of food. It increases your health regen, your mana regen, and does, I think, a couple of other things, but for sure it does those 2 things. We're going to put this over here. This is where I like to keep it. Some people, like I said, some people like to keep it small. You can double click on it and make it big again. I prefer it big. The little head is how many murder counts you have. This is how many creatures you have. As a regular melee dexter, we're going to have either 0 or 1 when we can get a horse. This is how much weight you are carrying versus what you can carry. How much gold you have on you, how much damage you do. Your criminal timer. This is your murder count decay timer, which isn't important right now, your PvP combat timer, and your bandage timer at the bottom. Okay, so we were gonna jump straight into the skills menu, but we have somebody spamming, so we're going to go to the options, and we're gonna learn how to ignore somebody, so we don't see all that text and stuff that we don't want to see. Options. Go down here to the bottom where it says ignore list. Add person to ignore list. Once their text that you see is gone, it's now gone, and we won't see it anymore. When you want to remove somebody from your ignore list, you can do it here, but in my experience, people that spam are typically just spammers. That character, that's all it does. So you probably won't have a lot of interactions with them out in the world. Okay, now we're going to focus on the skills menu. Over here, click on skills. For this, we are going to make it really big so we can see what's going on, right? We are not going to go through every single skill. We're not going to go through what every single skill does because there's a bunch of them. But we are going to learn how to use the skills menu. The primary thing you're going to do here is you're going to click this to activate skills. To say, for example, I want to level item identification. I can click on that. I can click on an item. Over here you can see that it went up 0.2. I'm not certain. An alternative way is to click and drag this out. Now, I can click on that, identify an item. Obviously, this isn't the best way to level a skill, but if it's something like meditation for mages that you don't use like super often, but you want to be able to meditate, that's a good place to do it. It also links down to these bars. Just like that. But we're not going to be activating skills right now. We're going to focus on these arrows over here. See how these are all pointed towards up? That means that that skill will raise. As we are going to be a melee, we're going to lock ones we don't want. And as we go through them, we're going to take these new skills down here. We're going to double click on this type. We're going to label it Dexter. We're going to hit enter. We're going to drag these up to Bard. We'll worry about those when we get to them. We want camping, because camping is going to make us do a little bit more damage, and it's going to let us carry some more. We don't care about cartography. We don't care about forensic evaluation. We're going to tick that to down. You can either leave it up here as down, or I like to, if it has some that's left, I like to drag it in there just so I can see it and I get rid of it later. We don't care about taste identification for now. Again, you will care about some of this stuff. It just depends on how you want to fine-tune your spec, but we are not interested in fine-tuning right now. Getting you to a point to where you can play. We are going to make another character and get a Shiv book. We don't care about fencing. We do care about healing, mace fighting, parry. We don't care about swords. We do care about tactics. We don't care about wrestling. No alchemy, no blacksmithing, cooking. We don't care about any of these. No trade skills. These are things for magery. We don't care about any of them. We might care about resisting spells. It depends on how you want to play your character. We don't care about these. These are for animal taming / skills with pets like necromancy. We might care about tracking. We're going to drag it down there. It does help PKs show up if you set up your tracking correctly. We don't care about any of these. Then Bard. We do care about focus. Alright, now, this is what we've ended up with. This is a lot of skills though, right? How many skills do we have access to? Show caps. These can all go up to 100. This can go up to 700, but we have more than 7, right? So let's go ahead and take this, move that up to there. You will be able to increase this to 720 for approximately 15,000 gold per extra point, but it's a thing you have to buy, and we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just worried about our character right now. Now we have anatomy, which is good. We have camping, which won't go to 100. We have shiv, which is good. We have focus, which is good. Healing, mace fighting, parrying, resisting spells. There's not really room on here for resisting spells, so we're not going to add it. You can level up if you want to, and then just take points from it later. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is 2 skills too many. Camping won't go to 100. Tracking won't go to 100. For now, though, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave that up, and we're going to leave all these other ones up. Let's double check. Make sure everything is 0. Which it is. Except for that one. That's fine. It's only 0.2 points. That 0.2 points will not come off until this number hits 700. If you want to reset everything for some reason, you can click reset. Show reel is something that isn't a huge factor on here. Every now and then you'll have something that gives you bonus points, such as some of the aspects which we're going to get into later. We're not going to talk about it right now. That'll be its own video. But some of the aspects will give you bonus points. Some weapons, like pickaxes, give you bonus tactics. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we're going to go ahead and take this. We're going to put it over here. I like to have it open all the time. That. Put you here. So that covers the skill menu. Again, the wiki, which you have your open wiki button right here, will be a good thing to learn what all this stuff actually does. This is just how we're going to start for now. Okay, so we've gone over everything on the screen. We have a button to heal ourselves. Now what do? We're going to go level some things with this, and eventually we'll get gold to where we can level them further, but for now we're just going to take the 1,000. We're going to go ahead and level tactics, and we're going to level chivalry. To do so, we're going to go over here to interact with doors. By default, you walk through a door, it will open / close, it'll interact with it, or you can double click it to interact with it. We're going to talk to this guy. We're going to go down to train chivalry. We're just going to drop that onto him. We're going to use the full amount. We now have 50 chivalry over here. We're going to talk to him. We're going to go to train tactics. We're going to drop that on him. We're going to use the full amount. So now it's gone because we've used it. We're going to go over here, and now we're going to talk to a banker. You can either click on him to open your bank box. You can click on this that says bank. And for reference, you don't have to be even within line of sight of a banker. You just have to be within range of them hearing you say bank. Now, you can only talk to this banker and all of these vendors while you're a new player. Once you lose new player status, you can come back here, but you will not be able to bank here, and you will not be able to buy, sell, or train. So you want to make sure you get that taken care of. Something we're going to need a lot of as a warrior is bandages. Assuming nobody has beaten you to it, you can come over here. Double click your scissors. This is going to pop up. This is a Captcha. This one's pretty easy to read, but let's say I was like, what's that middle one? You can right click on it. Double click them again. Click it again. 584. This will pop up periodically when you try to harvest anything. Collecting the wool from these is considered harvesting, so we're going to enter that in. We're going to hit OK. Now it's too far away, so we're going to walk over again. We're going to double click that. We're going to do that. Okay, that's very tedious, right? So let's go ahead and go to options. We're going to make another macro. New macro. We're going to call it use last. Set it to whatever you want to. My default that I use for use last all the time is W. We're going to go to here. We're going to go down to last object. We're going to hit apply. We're going to hit OK. Now, I just have to hit W. And I can get the wool. So now I have this wool. What do I do with it? Oh, wait. Missed one. Let's hit our circle of transparency. They're all good. We got them all. There's also a door here. Use last will work on lots of things. One of them that it works on is a door. If you activate the door, we're going to look around. What do we need? Well, first we need the spinning wheel, which is right here. So we're going to bring this over just so it's a little closer. We're going to do that. We're going to activate the spinning wheel. Eventually you will just be buying cloth, but early on this is a nice free way to get bandages. So once that's done, we're going to see how many we have. We have 12, which is incredible. So we're going to come over to here. We're going to click on somebody left us some cloth. So now we got 1 without having to use 5. Normally it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 3 extra, so we're just going to leave them on here for the next person, which might be us, it might be somebody else. It'll be fine. Double click your scissors. Click your bolts of cloth, double click them again. We have 100, we have 350. We now have 450 bandages, which is great. As you start to get gold, you can just go to buy. And you can double click and you can buy cloth. Eventually, especially if this video becomes popular, these guys are going to be farmed out pretty good. There's also one over to the southwest, which is this way. North is that way, south is that way, east is that way, and west is that way. Right is right. Right is not east. Left is left, down is down, up is up. Some people get a little confused with the direction. Up and right is north. If you can just remember that, you can get to the rest of it. That way is north. Okay, so we have bandages. We have some extra bandages. Our weight's pretty good. We only have 25. We're going to head on over to the dungeon. Which is this way. You can hit your circle of transparency if you're not sure what's in the way. This is the dungeon entrance for the Newbie Dungeon. You get 10 times the amount of experience in here versus anywhere else. When you come in, you're going to see a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be a lot of people around the entrance. There's going to be a lot of dead things. More often than not, there will be somebody from Sir standing here. So if you get overwhelmed, everything's dead right now, so it's not a great example. But if you get overwhelmed, you can come back here. See how he just said area taunt? He will taunt the things in the area, or you can just run outside. In the event that you do die, which you absolutely are going to die, you can come over here and you can bump into that, and or click on it if you want to, and it'll resurrect you. In the event that the healer later in game doesn't have those out front, as you get close to the healer, see that person just resurrected. As you get close to the healer, they will resurrect you. Make sure you don't resurrect inside a door, because as a ghost, you don't have to open doors. Just take one step either way and then resurrect, because you won't be able to resurrect it. And we're going to our first mob. To do that, we're going to come back over to the paper doll. You can click peace, which will turn you into war. See how he's ready to fight now? You can also push tab, which will tab you back and forth between peace and war mode. Your character will kind of fight back if you're not in war mode, but not super great. So we're going to come over here, we're going to tab, and then we're going to run away. So we only got one, because we line of sighted them. They will only attack you if they can see you. Somebody else is fighting it. But see how our skills are going up now? You want to level your skills in here until level 80. Once you get to level 80, you will no longer be able to gain skills. You'll get a pop-up showing that you've reached level 80 and you no longer get experience. See how it's blue? That means that that person did more than 50% of the damage, so they got looting rights, so I cannot open it because we're on shelter and you cannot loot something you don't have looting rights to. See how these are gray? I still can't open them because we're on shelter and I didn't kill them. I didn't do a majority of the damage. It's whoever initiates combat gets a plus 15%, so you only have to do 36% of the damage, and you get credit for it. Get frustrated if people steal your kills in here. There's a lot of people training. It's not just, you know, there's a lot going on. Let's see if we can get hurt so we can test our bandage macro and see how it works. Here we go. We're going to go into war mode. We're going to click on him. See, we just gained a dexterity. We're gaining all kinds of skills. This is going great. We have taken a little bit of damage. So we're going to push our healing hotkey we said earlier. Mine was 7. You're going to notice that my healing hotkey doesn't actually do anything. And I go in to check to see why. The reason is I am on a profile on Razer that has 7 assigned to something else, and that is overriding the in-game macro button. So if for some reason your in-game macros don't work, go make sure you don't have something in Razer taking precedence over it. The good news is it did allow me to die, so now we can cover some things that happen when you die. If you adjusted the death screen earlier on the options menu, yours may appear different, but this is the default one. You die, the screen goes black, you are dead. Now what do we do? Dead players can only see players that ticked an option that allow them to see them. For now, you want to leave that off because you're not going to be resin anybody. Once you get both 80 anatomy and 80 healing, you can resurrect other players. You'll notice though, that even though we just died, we can take that, we can put it anywhere. We have everything on us still because we are a young player. So I will be using a double click method to heal. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to fight this rat. So I double click it, I activate it. You're going to notice I'm not going to take a whole lot of damage through this. Part of that's because it's parry, part of it's just because it's a newbie rat. You'll do less damage, but you'll also take less damage. As a new player, that'll make it much easier to help you survive. Heal. It's now going to take 15 seconds, which I have my Razer set. I have my Razer set to show every 2 seconds. We're not going to get in how to edit that. Just know that that's where the message above my head comes from, and you can change how often it shows up. Now that we've killed something that we can loot, it will automatically open, assuming you follow my directions earlier. Otherwise, you'll have to double click it. Maybe let's try to skin this guy. Double click on that. So we're gonna walk over to town and we're gonna show you where to get a skinning knife. Now, skinning can be profitable. We're gonna just use it as a very early game example of a thing you can sell to a vendor, which is very limited on here. But you're gonna find out that the ribs and the leather and carrying around and the weight, and it's just not worth it unless you just absolutely want to skin and do it as a profession. In general, though, it's going to be a waste of your time. Don't bother skinning. Don't bother getting the ribs or any of that stuff. Unless you're going to level a cook or a tailor, it's just not worth your time right now. We're going to go down to the tailor. We're going to buy a skinning knife. Click on buy, or you can say vendor buy. Oh no, we don't have enough gold. If I had enough gold in my bank box, this vendor would have taken it out of my bank box, which is honestly just the best place to keep your gold. But we don't, so we need to march back up to the dungeon and get enough gold to get a skinning knife. I suggest you stay in here until your inventory gets pretty heavy. Don't run back and forth like I'm doing. This is just, examples for a new player as to things that you can do. Stay in here, get a good amount of gold. You don't have to worry about anybody stealing anything from you. Get some items. Go ahead and put the gold in your bank, which we showed you earlier on how to do. And then go back and mess with your skinning knife, or maybe get some better armor. People are going to tell you that the vendor armor isn't great, which is absolutely true, but as a newbie island person, you're going to have a hard time getting to some decent armor without losing your young player status. And the quality of life of being able to talk to the vendors here and train here and do all that stuff here far outweighs any little perk you would get from getting armor from a player vendor. Oh, so when I died a minute ago, those bandages weren't blessed because they're not newbie. Now we're going to go back down. We're going to talk to the tailor again. We're going to get a skinning knife. And while we kill stuff in the new player dungeon until we get a hang on it and get all of our stuff trained up and get us a set of vendor armor and some other things, then I really recommend you just ditch the skinning knife unless you just want to pile that stuff up in your bank and sell it to a player on Discord. You're going to have a hard time selling 1, 2, 300. You're going to need leather and ribs in the thousands to sell to other players. Yes, you can make money off of it. Is it worth it? Again, I don't think so as a new player. I feel like your time is spent doing other things, because the amount of time you're going to spend trying to find somebody to buy it, getting them to come meet you, it's just a big old rigmarole hassle that it just isn't worth your time. The same with gems. You're going to find gems, loot the gems, sell them to a vendor. The jewel crafter vendor will buy them. It just isn't worth your time this early to make an extra 20 gold per whatever to try to sell it to another player. you can activate your skinning knife like I did there, and then double click it, and then click on yourself like I clicked on my status window over there, and that will skin everything within a couple tiles that you have loot rights to. It'll skip over blue ones and just skin stuff that you can loot, even if somebody else killed it if it's gray. We're gonna sell. We can sell the leather at 1 gold. You'll be able to sell this to players for more if you're able to get more, but as a new player, this is fine. Bring it here, sell it to the vendor, make a little bit of money, move on with your life. I know I'm harping on it, it's just because a lot of people encourage new players to skin, and it's just not a quick route to anything. It's very arduous to get anywhere of value. One last thing I want to touch on is you're going to end up with a lot of loot, a lot of random items, a lot of stuff that's unidentified. Oh, well, I gave myself identified stuff, I guess, but the point is you're going to end up with a lot of items, right? The best solution to this is to make a character on one of your other accounts, give them 50 item ID, go ahead and identify them. If it's better than what you have, use it. Even if you don't identify it, like I don't have any armor, right? That's going to be better than nothing. I don't know what the drop rate of magic items is on Shelter, but use them. Some magic items you might be able to sell. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure if you can sell. Let's find out together. This guy has the Shiv book, which we talked about earlier. Again, though, I recommend you just get it from another account. Don't spend 5,000 gold, make a character, or make your character right, and don't do healing. So you can bring this stuff to the vendor and you can sell it. Do that early. Do it, get yourself some gear you're happy with, sell your stuff. This is a lot of gold to a new player, right? Keep the shield though, like that shield's going to be better than your wooden shield. And again, you can use your stats, bracket stats, you can equip stuff, go over to melee, and you can flip back and forth. You have to click this to update it. It's not live. So like I have 0, I drag that up there. I have to click it again to update it, right? Drag that back down. Double click that, put it on. It went down by half, so obviously the kite shield is better. Sell stuff that you don't know what to do with. Once you get your gear where it's happy and you got a little bit of gold in your pocket, come over to the tailoring shop. Tailoring kits are a popular choice for this. Once you have them identified, you can come over here. That's not the tailor. Buy a sewing kit, double click on it, go to, leave it on recycle single item for now so you don't accidentally recycle something you want in your backpack. Recycle single item, click, you get a little bit of leather out of it, and you get a little bit of arcane essence out of it. You're going to want a lot of this later, so don't sell everything, just sell enough to get yourself into a place where you're happy with, and then start doing this to get the arcane essence, which you're going to need a lot of for aspects. That's a little ways away, but when you get to aspects, if you start saving this now, you'll be good by the time you get there. The last thing you want to do, don't log out in the world. You can on Shelter, it's not a huge deal as long as you're not in the dungeon, but it's a good practice to start getting used to going to the inn. But before we do that, once you get up to 750 gold, I strongly recommend you come over here. You say vendor buy. You buy yourself a horse. I gave myself a little bit of gold just for the sake of jump starting the video. Except, you got your first horse. Tell it to follow you. It will follow you when it's dead as well. If you want it to be able to be resurrected by the healer, you need to come over to the new player dungeon. You cannot mount inside dungeons. Come over to here, get off of it before you go in. Follow it in, get it up to level 1. Once it gets to level 1, it will become what's called bonded. And then it won't die, it'll turn into a ghost, just like you do as a player. Now that we have our mount, we're going to come over to the inn. We're going to log out. I hope this video helped you. I hope it gets you on your right foot. We're going to talk about in-rooms and aspects and codexes and all that crazy stuff in other videos. This is just a long welcome to Ultima. Here's how you do a lot of basic stuff. Thank you so much. Hope it helped.